Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult. And today I'm excited because you can see who's here. Mike Brown. Welcome, Mike. Everybody clap for Mike.
No, this is fun. You texted me this morning, and I was actually thinking, I'm like, man, I should, I have thoughts. And then you were like, hey, can we get together and actually talk about this? And my day has been slammed busy, but I'm like, yes, let's make some time to do it. So
let's do it. There were people in my chat during my live stream this morning on my culty recap that were asking, like, I wonder what Mike Brown thinks about this. And I'm like, well, guess what? We're going to find out, because Mike and I are getting together tonight to talk about Tom Cruise getting the highest honor for a civilian from the Navy. And we're going to talk about the drone situation. And for those who may not know, Mike Brown is a fellow content creator here on YouTube. He's also on the board of our SPTV Foundation. And Mike Brown has his own channel. And if you are not familiar, you're going to want to get familiar. Here it is, where you can find Mike Brown. He's got a lot of great stuff on there, and also shares his mom, Rosemary, with us. And Mike and his mom, Rosemary, have been blowing the whistle on elder abuse, financial crimes in Scientology. So keep it coming, Mike. We love that.
I was able to finish some big projects this week. So hopefully I can at least do like a video a week. That's kind of what I'm going to set myself as like a goal. Like, hey, at least do a video a week, keep doing this stuff, make the time to do that. So anyway, hopefully now I just have to stick to it, but I don't have the bandwidth yet for like more than that, but we'll see what happens.
One a week. We will take one a week. If that's all we're getting from Mike Brown, we will take it.
Awesome.
For people who, some people might not know that Mike has been active military for what's it been, 25 years?
Well, I'm just short of 21 years right now. So yeah, so I'm kind of at the point, once you've served 20 years active military, you're able to like retire from the military as a retiree, but you can also continue to serve. So this is a good gig for a cult escapee with a GED. So yeah, I'm gonna just keep after it as long as I can.
For those who might not know, Mike Brown was in the Sea Organization as a child, left later as an adult, then joined the Army. And now he not only flies Chinook helicopters, but is an instructor and teaches people on how to fly them.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I'm kind of doing my dream job. So my life very much turned around when I was able to escape. That was all the way back in let's see, 2005 or 2004, 2005 is when I got out of there. And then I joined the military. I got out in 2004 and then joined the military then. And yeah, it's just been kind of great ever since. What was exciting was in the kind of COVID time frame, I was able to reconnect with my mother, who had disconnected from me when I left Scientology and the Sea Organization. She remained in, and I was able to help her escape. Got a lot of really great help from a lot of really great people, and we were able to get her out and get her to safety, and she is now recovering nicely. There was a lot of abuse and stuff with that. And one thing I thought would be kind of fun is about our discussion tonight. My mom actually has a lot of input because she was at the International Scientology base in Gilman Hot Springs, working up there when Tom Cruise would frequent the property. So while we have some of these discussions, at some point I might give her a call and just get her thoughts on this, because she'll have some very interesting insight as to what it was like for those who were on the property. They were just sort of like the rank and file working there, but weren't necessarily, Tom Cruise's inner circle. What was it like for the common person? Because I think it's going to be different than what most people would imagine meeting a superstar celebrity would be when they were actually in that cult situation.
Yeah, I think we'd love to hear from Rosemary. And I think what we're talking about tonight and having to do with Tom Cruise getting this award from the Navy is also kind of filling in on, I think you have such a great perspective because you're not just an ex-Scientologist, you're a former member of the Sea Organization, and you've been in the military for a long time. So there's so many different points of view I feel like you could have on this. Let's start with taking a look at the article that came out, which basically is similar in almost every publication, and this is about Tom Cruise getting this honored. Tom Cruise honored with U.S. Navy's highest civilian award. I know you probably saw this, Mike, right?
I did, yeah.
So basically, he's been awarded the U.S. Navy's highest civilian honor for outstanding contributions to the military with his screen roles. Cruise lead role in the 1986 smash hit Top Gun shot him into celebrity status, and the film's record-breaking success spiked military enlistment. So that kind of, I guess, is like why he got it, right? Because a lot of us at first, at least, on my end and on my channel, we were talking about it and being like, what? Why? And, reading that, it's like, okay, well, it probably did inspire more people to join the military. And I can appreciate that. So I get that. Right. I just kind of wish they didn't give it to somebody who was a huge backer of a child trafficking cult.
100% agree. So, I'm going to try to look at all this tonight and give my feedback, both from like the perspective of a person in the military who knows nothing about Scientology, and then a perspective of a former Scientologist, because they're very vastly different. If I try to separate myself out from my emotions connected to this individual and what he represents as a negative in my life and many other lives, if I separate myself from that, I have a vastly different feeling. So just as a service member and kind of helping explain what this is from probably the Department of the Navy's perspective and what they were doing, and kind of frame it for what it is and what it isn't in terms of what this award is. It's not like he's being given the Congressional Medal of Honor or something like that, but it's prestigious nonetheless what he's being given. But I don't know that from the Navy's perspective, it's unwarranted. And he isn't deserving of it from their point of view and what it means to the military. Which, it's easy. It's low-hanging fruit to come and literally just say Tom Cruise doesn't deserve this at all, and nothing's good about any of the work that he's done. And I think we need to look at it from both perspectives so that we can hopefully find, the kind of the dichotomy in this entire thing and figure out, okay, be informed about it as opposed to just emotional about it, which I am all here for that part too.
Yeah, but I love it. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I kind of thought, you know what, I bet Mike might have a different perspective, because I see that part of it too. I think something that inspires people to serve their country as a good thing. So I can see that. So I cannot wait to hear both your takes on this. Where do you want to start?
So let's, why don't you just pull the article up for a minute? Just to kind of frame a couple things on what this was. So if you just scroll down a little bit, there's that's a standard looking award. And then, so this award was given to him by the Secretary of the Navy. So this is that person who's in that position. And I won't even go into the specifics of who it is or anything. It's in a different branch than what I'm in, but that position is an appointed political position. The person who's often in these positions is a former person that is in the military who has a tremendous amount of experience. That's true for the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Navy, Secretary of the Army, but these are appointed positions, like political appointments. So this person, when they come to work, they wear a suit and tie. They're not a general officer with 4 stars. That's a different position, like Joint Chiefs of Staff and things of that nature. So what you have here is you have a political appointee who's, and no drama on what I'm talking about there, either like the guy, don't like the guy. I really don't know anything about him. But you also have the end of a presidential administration. And usually what you see at the end of these administrations is often you'll see similar awards that are going to come out from different secretaries of services. And even like the president will do the presidential, Medal of Freedom for whatever it is for different people that kind of align with things that he wants to promote, like opinion leaders, usually what those are. And those are civilian people that they're being recognized. And so it's not unheard of that you're going to have this. It actually kind of makes a lot of sense. And, just me speaking from an individual, which is all I'm doing tonight, my opinion about it. If I was the Secretary of the Navy and I was also a huge Top Gun fan, and I knew that probably I was going to be replaced when the new administration came in, because that's usually what happens. You get a new Secretary of Defense, you then get those other appointees that are appointed and approved by Congress, as that usually goes. It always goes. They have to go through the appointment process. And it was like, you know what? It would really be cool if I could like give this award to Tom Cruise. So from a fangirl perspective, I understand that, but also like looking at it from the Navy's perspective and just military recruitment in general, recruitment is a hard thing these days.
Yeah.
Like back in I think it was 86 when Top Gun came out, the
Mhm.
recruitment was not great in the military, and it's always hard. Like recruiters, that's a hard job. You're trying to find the right people for the jobs, and they really go out there and they're going to high schools and colleges and trying to find people off the street that meet these criteria. And you're talking about like naval aviators. Like it's
Mhm.
like that's a high-end position to fill. So when you need that and you're having trouble with a deficit, on a recruiting deficit, like that's a problem. So Top Gun
Yeah.
comes out, and literally the recruiters were able to choose who they wanted to have in.
Wow.
So yeah, there was a massive spike. And like, I mean, I'm a huge, 80s movies fan, because that's when I was a kid. When Top Gun came out, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So a similar thing also then happened when the new Top Gun Maverick came out. And it happened during COVID. It happened at a time where we've now accelerated everything like a couple generations, and recruiting in today's world is even harder than it was in the 80s. Less people are physically and mentally qualified to go into military service, just because they don't want to. Like they would show up, and even if they wanted to join, a lot of people just are disqualified for medical reasons. They're not in good enough shape. They're not mentally able to put up with kind of the experience in the military that is not uncult like in certain ways. It has a high demand on you personally.
Mhm.
So when Maverick came out, the most recent one, that was also resulted in a huge boost of interest for not only the Navy but also probably for the other services too, where that made it again relevant in today's society at a high level, where that was a massive benefit. So from the Navy's perspective, those are just the Maverick movies. He was also in A Few Good Men. He was born on the 4th of July. He's done a lot of things that have been service related. And I don't hate, I'm a huge fan of the Top Gun movies. Now, there's a lot of things that don't like about Tom Cruise
Mhm.
and his production company and everything he stands for and the money he gives to Scientology. But let's table that for a minute and just talk about this from the military perspective and
Mhm.
get everyone in that mindset. And then we'll pull everybody into the cult mindset a little after that. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
All right. So so this is kind of what they're talking about in here. Now if we want to, I want to just kind of highlight a line that Tom Cruise says in here.
Yeah, can you
Let's
see it
see.
okay? I think it's
You
the
want to read
part.
it? It might be bigger on your screen.
Yep.
If you want to read both of those top paragraphs, and then we can stop right there, because I think that's kind of what he had to say.
So this is Tom Cruise speaking. I admire all of the servicemen and women, Cruise said, standing next to U.S. Secretary of the Navy Carlos del Toro, who handed him a certificate and medal. I know in life, something that is very true to me is that to lead is to serve. And I know that to my core. And I see that in the servicemen and women.
Okay, cool. That is those sound like inspirational words
Mhm.
to service members. And obviously he was probably very delighted to get this. Okay, so now what Natalie and I came up with a couple different little quotes, or not quotes but clips,
Mhm.
um, of different Tom Cruise movies to, like I've given my perspective. Now let's look at some of these things with respect to leadership roles, and all this, with how Tom Cruise, the actor, is perceived by everyone. This is not Tom Cruise the individual, Tom Cruise the cult member. This is the roles he plays to represent the different things that he's doing. This first one here is from Top Gun Maverick, and Natalie and I talked about this. So we're going to provide a lot of commentary through this, and we'll kind of probably break at certain points. But we're going to be giving our analysis of this from the point of fair use, so no one wants to ding us on the specifics. But this is a scene from Top Gun Maverick where they're introducing him as the senior trainer in order to train these guys to do this impossible mission. So we'll watch a little bit of this.
All right. Roll tape.
That's the technological advantage. Success, now more than ever, comes down to the man or woman in the box.
So this is the Top Gun that came out during, what was it?
During COVID.
During COVID. Okay.
Yeah. So within the last couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. I did see it, but I saw it way after it came out.
We'll make the cut. One of you will be named mission leader. The other half will remain in reserve. Your instructor is a Top Gun graduate with real world.
And that's the son of the original guy, right? Goose.
Yeah, so that's played by Miles Teller, and he's Goose's son in this thing. And yeah, I personally love the job that Miles Teller did in this. In many ways, he's my favorite actor in this movie. Just he's also just a kind of a funny individual. Yeah.
World experience in every mission aspect you will be expected to master. His exploits are legendary.
Legendary.
And he's considered to be one of the finest pilots this program has ever produced.
Ooh.
Now they are scared because he was in the bar last night and they didn't know who he was, and they kind of threw him out on the sand because he didn't pay his bar tab.
What he has to teach you may very well mean the difference between life and death.
And you can just keep it rolling while I kind of say some of these
Captain
things.
Pete Mitchell. Call sign Maverick.
Maverick.
Now he's going to basically, the manual he has is basically the operator's manual for the F-18. Big smile.
The F-18 NATOPS contains everything they want you to know about your aircraft. I'm assuming you know the book inside and out.
Damn right.
Yeah,
damn straight.
You got it.
I do like John Hamm too. I was happy to see him here in Top Gun.
Oh yeah. Now what's funny is John Hamm is playing the role of kind of the leader who is more interested about himself and his career than he is about the military service member. And the position that Maverick Cruz is playing is very much the trainer that cares more about the mission accomplishment and the people and what it takes to make them successful too, which is like kind of what's cool about the whole message of the movie and what he's kind of getting after through a lot of this thing. So Hamm is kind of positioned as kind of the toxic leader, and Cruz is basically the filter to make everything happen and everything to work well. Is kind of why that's important, is what we'll get into a little bit later.
Okay.
In the trash. Uh-oh. The leaders don't like that.
So does your enemy.
Mm-mm.
And we're off. But what the enemy doesn't know is your limits. I intend to find them, test them, push beyond. Today we'll start with what you only think you know.
So this is kind of like you're setting this up, Mike, like him, the military leader that he plays versus just kind of like who he plays in the movie versus who he is, kind of a thing.
Yeah, because that's who Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise is a very good actor. Let me just be 100% clear. I think every role he plays, he gets into it, and he's embodying this thing. So the world knows Tom Cruise as the roles he plays. They don't know Tom Cruise personally. I mean,
as this guy. So you're saying that you think the military, the people that were at least in the Navy who gave him the award, they gave it to this character.
Well, yeah, obviously they gave it to Tom Cruise, but just look at who he is in these roles he plays, and then separate yourself out from all the cult problems that we have with Tom Cruise, and there's nothing there that you shouldn't like, unless you just have an opinion about if you like his movies or not.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So we got to kind of pretend that we don't know Tom Cruise is a huge supporter of a human trafficking cult. So
yeah,
everybody in the chat, pretend that is not the case. We are just looking at this from the point of view of exactly just as it is.
Absolutely.
You show me what you're made of.
Mike, do you say that to your students? Do you have like a tagline that you use?
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100% it. Yeah, no, not at all. So okay, so that just gives you an idea, like, hey, he's going to find out what they can do and how they can, like, this would be an example of what I would consider like a positive leadership experience, even if it's a harsh one. Okay,
Okay.
like he's demanding a lot, but he's doing it for their benefit. That's kind of
Mhm.
what you get out of that whole thing. Like, hey, I'm going to test you, but I'm going to see where you're at. Now let's pull up this next thing, and this is the sequel's response to the first movie. In the first movie, they had beach volleyball.
Yeah.
Everyone, all the guys, all hot and sweaty. Well, now they had beach football. But on this, you're going to see them out there playing. It's supposed to be a team building event. And they had just finished playing this thing, and then they were supposed to be all flying. And he has them out there actually, instead of flying, like working on a team building event out on the beach in order to refine their teamwork skills. And you'll see him interact then with John Hamm as well. So go ahead and play it.
Sir,
What is this?
it's dogfight football. Offense and defense at the same time.
Who's winning?
I think they stopped keeping score a while ago.
This detachment still has some training to complete, Captain.
So he's mad because they're not flying. This is just like kind of like Maverick's idea of how to team build.
Yeah, he put them basically say, hey, play football, but play offense and defense at the same time. So there's two footballs, and both of you are trying to both score and keep the other person from scoring. And it's supposed to, and then they're out there having fun. So the whole scene before this, which actually probably has a lot of copyrighted music in it too, is them like playing football and, running around and tackling each other. And they're having a blast. And that is what
Every
is going
available
on.
minute matters.
Yes, sir.
So why are we out here playing games?
You said to create a team, sir. There's your team.
Okay, you can go ahead and pause it.
Yeah.
All right. So this is now, again, we have, not only are we romanticizing everything about this job in the military, which is kind of hard not to do, like an F-18 fighter pilot. I mean, that's a pretty cool job. Plus kind of showing this almost behind the scenes, what it's like to do this in a very highly produced Hollywood thing. Like,
Mhm.
what's not to love about that? Like recruiters, I'm sure, are like having to beat people off with a stick, like, but that's a good problem to have when you are a recruiter. Let's say that you get 10 people that come in and they say, all of us want to be Tom Cruise, and they're all there trying to vouch for themselves. You put them through the testing and stuff, and one of those people are qualified.
Yeah.
Well, that's 10 people you didn't have to go and seek out. You know what I mean? And then you can find jobs for the other 9, doing a bunch of other cool stuff in the military. And if that's what they want to do, that is absolutely, it's a force generator, doing stuff like this. That's why the Department of the Navy really works with these production studios, because it was a PR event. And often the military will do those things. If there's something going on and has a PR benefit for recruiting or for, kind of just the general message and stuff, there's a whole PR section for the military. And every branch in every state, and that's a major function. So they can't get better stuff than this.
So Tom Cruise playing those roles and the way the movie, like you said, romanticizes it all. This is exactly what gives that boost to recruitment for the military. And I suppose too, how maybe a lot of people even in the military might connect with that character and think that this is who Tom Cruise is.
Yeah, and exactly. And all the cheesy lines and all this sort of stuff, you'll constantly hear people saying it all the time, from the first movie, the different movies. And like, it's just, if it's cheesy and it's fun, you can just expect service members to be all there for it. So
What are
that
your cheesy lines, Mike?
Oh yeah, like, talk to me, Goose. Like,
You
that's
guys
the first line in Top Gun, of course. Anyway, but so that's just his Top Gun Maverick role. Now you could find a bunch of stuff from Top Gun. Now, Tom Cruise, when he did Top Gun back in '86, he was an up and coming actor, and it really boosted his entire career. So an argument kind of on the other side of this is, did Tom Cruise benefit from making these movies? Well, he's worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars just personally. So I'm going to go with yes. It's not like Tom Cruise did it out of the goodness of his heart. Do I think he cares about service members? I legitimately do. But ultimately, I think Tom Cruise also is like, this isn't not beneficial for Tom.
Yeah.
Part of what he did is he delayed the second movie coming out was supposed to come out right when COVID was blowing up. And he actually delayed the release by a year in order for some of the restrictions to come back up. And then he released it at a time which kind of reinvigorated a lot of the film industry. And like, he's very strategic about what he does. He's not stupid with respect to making movies. Obviously not. He's brilliant in that way. But he also is doing these things so that they're successful, they're beneficial for him. And like, and I would expect him to do that.
Yeah.
Again, I'm trying to strongman his side of this and the Navy's side of this. The next clip that we have is going to be from the A Few Good Men. This is the scene in the courtroom towards the end where you have Tom Cruise as the attorney against Jack Nicholson, who is basically the villain in this. He's basically a military commander who is let me see. Yeah, we're going to go basically between about the time code of about 5 minutes and then about 6:38. And he is trying to get him to admit that this hazing ritual that some Marines under this officer's care were involved in that resulted in a service member dying was his order, and that the service members were acting on his order because he's trying to be the defense attorney to these two Marines that are in big trouble while they're being prosecuted. So this is a very interesting movie, especially if you like movies that are about court cases and all that. This is a good look at UCMJ, which is the Uniform Code of Military Justice, kind of the proceedings for how the military handles their courts. And he is playing the defense attorney, which is a naval officer, against another prosecuting attorney, which is Kevin Bacon's role there as well. You can't handle the truth. Yeah, that was just a line also from this movie. So you're going to see Tom Cruise again. You know, here he's more argumentative, but I want you to also notice what the officer on the stand and his reaction is going to be and how he's speaking, because we're going to hear a very similar tone in a little bit after this clip that you're going to find very interesting. But again, this is Tom Cruise representing a military officer, a junior naval officer. One thing this movie does kind of do is it kind of shits on the Marine Corps pretty heavily. So it was a benefit to the Navy, but the Marine Corps is under the Department of the Navy anyway. So ultimately it was creating interest in things in general. So I would say it's a good movie. Let's go ahead and listen to some of it.
All right. Roll tape. You were talking about the
Yeah, so this is,
want us to pay attention to this.
Yeah, so this is a general officer that Jack Nicholson plays. Or sorry, he's a colonel that was in charge of Guantanamo Bay. And he is then on the stand, and it was a big deal to even call him to it because he's like a senior officer. It was like a Hail Mary try on Cruise's character's part to do this, and he was like in very hot water. If he does this wrong, is the end of his career. So he's hanging everything out here, literally sacrificing himself for the good of his clients. Again, we're seeing this, like, you know, this love for the service member, and kind of how we're then framing Tom Cruise as the actor, which then the world is going to perceive him as a person. So we'll go ahead and listen to some of this. And he's going to get on a bit of a rant. Let's let him kind of go through it, and then we'll comment on chunks of it as he kind of.
What do you think, Mike?
So he's in the point right now of he's trying to get him to justify what it is he's doing, and the his thoughts about what happened with this person that died. Santiago is the guy that they were hazing. They ended up stuffing a rag in his mouth that had, you know, shoe polish on it. The guy had a medical condition. He ended up basically dying. That's what ended up happening. And the guys that were doing it, they were doing this thing they refer to as a code red. And that is a hazing ritual, apparently, that was being enacted in this instance, where they kind of beat the person up when they're underperforming. So it's a thing called group punishment. Like something's not going right, you punish the entire group for that one individual that's doing something wrong, and then you kind of let the group punish the individual until that individual starts making it.
Like
so
in the hole at the international base with David Miscavige. I mean, just everybody gets punished, and then you gang up on one person.
So that is the kind of mentality. Now, this was probably a higher level of physical abuse than a lot of the stuff in the hole. While there was a definite physical abuse going on, this was like something at a whole new level, which probably most of the stuff that occurred in that hole should be on, you know, somebody should be prosecuted for it anyway. But anyway, let's roll a little bit more. So at this point, he's basically got the person to Jack Nicholson's on a roll. Okay, at this point, in terms of like just justifying his position in terms of what he's doing and his position in anger, he's going to stand by no matter what. That's just kind of what is going on. And he is Tom Cruise has gotten him in his in this thing in this court proceeding to lay it all out there to the point where the guy's ego is the biggest thing that's driving him, and that's what he's trying to exploit, because he's already dealt with this person before. He knows he's a toxic leader, and he knows things that he says and the things that he believes are more important than what is right. He's dictating what is right. It's all about his decisions. So that's the mindset of the guy who's testifying. And, you know, then Cruz will quickly go on here to basically get him to admit that he was the one who ordered this thing that happens, which completely changes the whole complexion of it. This guy ends up prosecuted, goes to jail. It's a big deal, and it's a huge win. It's like finally the little guy wins because somebody like lays it all out there for them.
Yeah. So again, positions Tom Cruise as such a hero to the military through this movie.
Totally. So, and not only to the military, but just the public in general. Like when you think about, like, if you think about any, who's an actress that you know nothing about, but you really like?
That I really like and know nothing about.
About personally, you just know, like, hey, you really like him in a movie, and you're like, oh, I like, you know, the roles that they play and stuff like that. But as a person, you just like, I don't know if
Jason
they're
Momoa.
There you go. Now,
really like
from
him.
my end, I'm a shocker. I would have never thought you were going to say that. I thought you were going to say Scarlett Johansson or something like that. I literally thought that's what you're going to say. But like, if you don't know him, you don't know his politics, you don't know his family life. From my understanding, he's probably like a really great guy. But you think of him through the lens of what you've seen him in, which is all the shows he's played. And how else would you know who he is, right?
Yeah.
So the world in general sees Tom Cruise like that, and that is the recruitment strategy on why Scientology targets celebrities. They want to target celebrities that are, you know, able to be an opinion leader, and then use their position in order to promote Scientology to get more people into it. Unfortunately, it's hugely backfired because of the amount of shenanigans that Tom Cruise constantly gets involved in. He couldn't lead anything out of like a wet paper sack, like not a family, let alone like anything else. And we'll get into some of this stuff too. But if you see, like, from the Department of Defense and the Department of Navy's perspective, like, Tom Cruise has done great work that has resulted in benefit to these things. Plus the dude is able to probably approve this thing and give it to him before he like moved out of office. And if you were the Secretary of the Navy and you were able to give Jason Momoa a certificate and this medal because of his role in Aquaman and everything
And a
he
hug.
did for the Navy,
A very intense
I'm
hug.
you would do it.
I would take that bullet for my country.
Yeah. There you go. It's like that scene in Grease or whatever it was, you know, when they're all like in the bomb shelter. So anyway, so that is that's my thought about it with respect to the Navy's position on it. Should the Navy get shit on for their decision to give that to Tom Cruise? I don't think so. That's not the point. What is the point is who is this person, Tom Cruise, in real life? And then I think that because Tom Cruise has a massive production company, that because he's not just an actor, he's a producer, and he owns a massive production company called Odin Productions. Not only does Tom Cruise give his charitable tax donations, basically his tax write-offs personally, but also my understanding is Odin Productions gives a large amount of money to support Scientology. So Tom Cruise himself is not only personally profiting off of all of his work, but then his company is set up, you know, in order to move money to Scientology as well. Him and other big rich people who are the big whales for Scientology financially are what is keeping them in existence. If those wealthy donors stopped giving to Scientology, it would almost cease to exist. You know, within a year or two, they would run out of funds and they would be gone. But those people are keeping them afloat because of their tax exempt status. When you have money, you got to get rid of money. So they're able to, you know, donate it. It benefits the person giving it. They're not just having to give it because out of the goodness of their heart, they need to offload money in order to move their tax situation to where it's more manageable. It works for them. So that's why they do it, not just because they love David Miscavige. They're getting something for their ego out of Scientology, and that's why they do the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's see, what did we talk about next? We've kind
Tom
of
Cruise, the
looked at,
person. We're going to show basically what Tom Cruise is really actually like on a movie set.
Yes. Now, when we listen to this one we can listen to all the way through. We
Mhm.
just heard Jack Nicholson as, I think it was Colonel Jessup in A Few Good Men, melting down about his righteousness on what he believes, just talking down to the person that he was talking to. He, he's so much more important, his position more elevated than that of the lawyer that he was speaking to. Now let's listen to what it sounds like when you are working for Tom Cruise. And this, as we're listening to it, this is a recording from somebody on a movie set. My understanding was it was during Mission Impossible, as they were recording for, I think, Dead Reckoning or one of his movies during COVID, and he was trying to do it with the COVID restrictions. Now, I want you to think of this from the perspective of leadership, being responsible for other people, and then we'll both try to strawman this and tear it apart, and also strongman it on what Tom Cruise did here. Once we hear how it is to work for him personally in making one of his movies.
All right, great. We'll listen to this all. Let's see here. Here we go.
We are the gold standard. They're back there in Hollywood making movies right now because of us. Because they believe in us and what we're doing. I'm on the phone with every studio at night. Insurance companies. Producers. And they're looking at us and using us to make their movies. We are creating thousands of jobs.
Well, he really just called them MFers there, didn't he?
Yeah, getting spicy.
Didn't he?
Jack Nicholson didn't even say that.
No
Holy
kidding.
moly.
And remember, everybody, this is not from a movie. This is Tom Cruise making a movie, being
With
Tom
people
Cruise.
on a movie set. He's melting down because people that are around one of the computers doing work on the set were standing too close together during COVID protocols. They were too closely in proximity to one another while working on his movie set.
Wow.
I don't ever want to see it again. Ever. And if you don't do it, you're fired. And I see you do it again, you're gone. And anyone on this crew does it. That's it. And you too, and you too, and you. Don't you ever do it again. That's it. No apologies. You can tell it to the people that are losing their homes because our industry is shut down. It's not going to put food on their table or pay for their college education. That's what I sleep with every night. The future of the industry.
Isn't it interesting? It's like there seems to be a theme with Tom Cruise where he definitely feels he is the only one doing anything. He is carrying everything. Now he's carrying the entire entertainment industry. Oh,
It's all him.
yeah, all him.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm beyond your apologies. I have told you, and now I want it. And if you don't do it, you're out. We are not shutting this movie down. Is it understood? If I see it again, you're gone. And so are you. So you're going to cost him his job. And I see it on the set, you're gone. And you're gone. That's it. Am I clear? Do you understand what I want? Do you understand the responsibility that you have? Because I will deal with your reason. And if you can't be reasonable, and I can't deal with your logic, you're fired. That's it. That is it. I trust you guys to be here. That's it. That's it, guys. That's what I'm doing. I'm talking to you the rest of the Carol.
Now it's like he's just repeating himself. He's just starting back up again where he was.
Well, and this is another thing he's doing is he's making everything that he does. So his leadership style is all about him as a leader, how important he is as a leader, how nothing can happen without him. And I'm not saying he doesn't make good shit. He does. He's like, I'm talking to the Universal president, Paramount, Warner Brothers. Like he's doing it all. Meanwhile, he's talking to the people working for him on his set to do the job. Now he's saying we're not going to shut this down. You remember how emotional he was? We're not shutting this down. Do you know what that would result in if he had to shut down the movie set? A massive loss of money. So he's going to lose money if he does that. So anyway, it kind of goes on like this, but there's not much more to it. I think we get the point. Like he makes Jack Nicholson look darn right fluffy. After when listening to like his rant on here, this is talking to people. They were standing too close together, and he even has like a yardstick. And if you're closer than that, he's going to like freak out on you, like a distance. They had a social, and meanwhile they're trying to work together. I don't know if anyone's that's had the opportunity to be on a movie set, but it is usually close quarters, and you're working together, like hair, makeup, like lighting. Everyone's working together and trying to make that a scene and set happen. The director and all the people behind the camera are like kind of close together. It's very hard to do it. So to strong arm his argument for this entire thing, it's important for him to not only be successful at the job, but also to provide jobs for those people. He wants to get this movie done, and he needs to be successful through that for these people. Like he's saying, hey, I'm going to draw a hard line for this, and this is what's going to happen. Now, are you telling me that a multi-million-dollar film producer and superstar couldn't say it exactly like I said it just now and be serious about it and not be a total 100% prick?
Exactly. Especially somebody who has gotten so far in Scientology that he has supposedly mastered the art of communication.
Oh, totally. You know, they're literally supposed to be the authorities on communication and how to handle conflict resolution and all this sort of stuff. So this is the way he's actually like, so, okay, could he have been having a bad day? Sure. Now, what I saw was somebody, and everyone people were trying to apologize. And he's like, I don't want your apologies. And then all he wanted was a yes, sir. And that's what his subordinate was saying, where it's yes, sir. So it's not, they're not able to say, okay. They're responding with sir. Like, that is very militaristic.
Yeah.
Like, now, would you talk to a CEO of a company and refer to him as sir or ma'am or something like that? Probably. But you probably wouldn't have a CEO that would be speaking like that to subordinates. Like, nothing about that from a business perspective or interaction on a corporate level or anything makes any degree of sense. But this is unfiltered Tom Cruise with his people that are working for him on this movie set to do, I think, one of the Mission Impossible ones.
Yeah.
That's what you get. That's the real dude. So now let's look at another time Tom Cruise got just a wee little medal from his cult. And he got a wee little medal. Actually, he got a really big Flava Flav size medal from his wee little cult leader. And let's see how that shakes out. And let's just listen to some of the words that are saying. And then we're going to kind of come back to that article and we're going to talk about some stuff and have a blast with this. Go ahead, Nat.
All right.
All warm fuzzy. The word valor is an important word in the military. It basically means that when you get a valorous award, you have sacrificed and put your life on the line. So for instance, I was awarded a medal and it got a V device for valor. When I was in a situation, they put that on there if you were in a situation and you did something which put your life at risk. Literally, not just like, oh, you put yourself out there like, hey, you're using your time as a celebrity to do this. No, you literally did something that would have put others' safety and security and mission success ahead of your own physical well-being. That's what a valorous award in the military stands for. So they give this guy their IS Freedom Medal winner of valor. Total numbers of these they've given is 1, and it's to Tom Cruise. That's it. The only dude who's ever gotten their valor medal. But they never said what he did to risk his life. It's just, he's introduced Scientology to 1 billion people. That's why they have about 200, or sorry, about 20 to 30,000 members, not even close to 200. All right, let's listen to what, yeah, you might have to crank the, the volume on this one. Let's listen to what Tom says about tiny David Miscavige and his leadership capability and how amazing it is for Tom to get this unbelievable medal.
Thank you.
Medal of Valor. Soak in those applause, baby. Mm.
It's so big.
Thank you.
Still going.
You're welcome. I'm really, really honored to be here with you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your confidence in me. I've personally been very privileged to see what you do
Oh, here comes the circle jerk.
to protect, to serve all of us.
Is that his mom? No, that's his sister, right? And his
Yeah, that's there's Tommy Davis, who's I like to refer. If there was ever a bromance for the ages, this would be it.
total bromance. My favorite bromance photo of Tom Cruise and Dave Miscavige is the one when they were in front of their motorcycles.
Oh, that's pretty good too. It reminds me of that that series Spartacus, where there was all the gladiators that would like shave each other's backs and stuff like that. It kind of reminds me of that. But yeah, go ahead.
Just skip.
I think that's Debbie Cook that was in the front row about halfway down. If I could be wrong, but anyway,
Who was?
I think it was Debbie Cook that was in the front row. If you go back to the audience a little bit, was this before? I think this was before she left. Right there,
Oh,
stop.
would have had to have been, yeah.
Yeah, like right there. Is that her?
That's his
bottom
sister.
left?
Right
Oh,
here.
that's his sister?
Yeah.
Okay.
Clap, 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 clap.
Lots of clapping.
And to you, Mr. L. Ron Hubbard, sir, I take this as a half act.
And that means a half acknowledgement in Scientology where you're like, uh-huh. It's not a full acknowledgement, which would indicate you need to stop. A half act, so people get the joke, is it's an encouragement, but you're letting them know you're heard, but you want them to keep talking.
And I will.
I remember Scientologists really love when Tom Cruise uses Scientology words, and I get it. Because it just seemed weird to have such a big celebrity speaking Scientology.
I will continue on my way. Okay. These are the times now, people. Okay. These are the times we will all remember. Were you there? What did you do? I think you know that I am there for you. And I do care so very, very, very much. So what do you say? We need to clean this place up? Huh? Okay. Because we're counting on you. Okay? All right? To LRH.
More saluting, more applause.
Culty as shit. So this is literally the paramilitary organization within the Church of Scientology, run by this little dictator, David Miscavige, as the chairman of the board, Religious Technology Center. He moved himself into that position. He took over the cult after L. Ron Hubbard died. He calls himself COB. Did you ever, you've talked about, have you and Aaron talked about why David Miscavige refers to himself as chairman of the board? Because that wasn't a position that existed before he took that over.
I don't think so.
So there was a board of directors of the Church of Scientology. It was supposed to be kind of spread around a bunch of people. So it was sort of like a body that would work together in order to expand
Mhm.
Scientology. And that's how it was under Hubbard. When David Miscavige got into this position, he was so enamored with Frank Sinatra, who would refer to himself as part of the Rat Pack as the chairman of the board, that he started calling himself, like, the guy is like spray cheese as shit. Like, there's nothing cool about the guy. And now he's become this head of this multi-billion-dollar cult that is involved in all sorts of illicit things and abuse, and more and more members, as they come out, they just keep telling the same stories about financial crimes, about abuse that happened when people were in there, and it's just continuous. And the only thing that is keeping them alive are whales like Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
So we're now in the cult portion of tonight's discussion, where I will then go against, I'll push back a little bit against, like, this award that he got, that I think he has a very stilted and disgusting thought about what is a leader, what is leadership. And that all comes from the programming of Scientology that Tom Cruise cannot help but actually even interject into the award that he received from the Secretary of the Navy. So if we remember that second paragraph we read,
Yep.
Natalie?
Yep. Let me grab
Here,
that
let's
from the article.
let's look at that again. This is going to be important, like why he chose the words he chose.
So he says, this is Tom Cruise saying, I admire all of the servicemen and women, Cruise said, standing next to the U.S. Secretary of the Navy, Carlos del Toro, who handed him a certificate and medal. I know in life something that is very true for me, very true to me, is that to lead is to serve. And I know that to my core. And I see that in the servicemen and women.
So he says to lead is to serve, and I know that to my core. So that's something that's very intrinsically that he's internalized, and that's something that he says, hey, this is something that I know is true, and it's something that I believe in. Like, he's talking about what leadership is for him. He used an interesting set of words there. To lead is to serve. That is not something that is normal military jargon. Like that isn't the way that usually you mention what leadership is. But Natalie and I do know where this exactly came from, and Cruise changed it a little bit to make it a little bit more palatable. And it's from the code of a Sea Org member. The Sea Org member.
Look at that.
Yeah. Okay. Here we have the code of a Sea Org member. And this is a whole list of things. Like, number one, I promise to help get ethics in on this planet and the universe, which is the basic purpose of the Sea Org. And then it goes on. And then, this whole thing is just full of cult indoctrination, very militaristic in its phraseology and its creation. Now, number 9, this is very important. We just said the belief that to lead is to serve. Now, let me read this to you. 9, I promise to exemplify in my conduct the belief that to command is to serve, and that a being is only as valuable as he can serve others. Command is to serve. Cruise changed it to lead is to serve, because to inject command into that would have not made a lot of sense. But it's the same basic word salad sentence thing.
Yeah, that he took from the code of a Sea Org member, which is something that is that applies just to Sea Org members. That Sea Org members are required to follow. We were very heavily indoctrinated in all of the points on this here. And
yeah,
so
we had to
interesting, Mike.
memorize these. I still, as I was reading through these, I'm like, shoot, I still remember this. I promised through my actions to increase the power of the Sea Org and decrease the power of any enemy. Like, I could recite most of this in my sleep. It's something that we just did every single day, and they made us repeat over and over and over and over again. But this whole thing, the belief that to command is to serve, and that a being is only as valuable as he can serve others. Now, what's interesting there is Cruise put in lead, because the word command and lead are not the same thing.
No.
So I actually just pulled up something like, okay, well, how do we define command specifically for the military? And then how do we define it just in general? So if you're talking command, the first one is to issue orders, like telling somebody to do something in a forceful and official way. I'm commanding you to do something, right? Yeah. And then the other one, which applies to military, which is the way that it's used in the code of a Sea Org member, is to have authority. So you are in control over someone or something. You're in control of an organization. So that is where you have a commanding officer. You're in a command role, a command position. So if
Yeah.
you're the commanding officer or the CO of an org, you're a commander. Now, that then kind of you are then basically issuing orders and doing those things. You're in a leadership role, but that doesn't instantly make you a good leader. There's a lot. If you start looking at what is leadership, you'll find a million podcasts about this, and it's actually a very popular subject for business consultants, for military experts, for military leaders that get out and they're trying to define what is these leadership characteristics. One thing that I think is super interesting is I like this person, and he has a great book. His name is Simon Sinek, and he has a leadership book that is called Leaders Eat Last. And it's all about the way military and successful leaders operate.
I
And
can
it
never
is
be a leader. I am first in line. Any family gathering, first in line. I could not eat last.
yeah. Well, it comes from the principle of like in the military, like specifically, he's talking about the Marine Corps, where a normal thing is they make sure that from the most junior person first eats, and then at the end, the leader eats, to make sure that the idea is you're making sure that the people under your charge are taken care of before you take care of yourself. And
I
when
would
you're
cut in front of my kids at a buffet if I had the chance.
hell yeah. That's why we're not asking you to command anything, Natalie.
Exactly. I should not be commanding anything. But you're making such an interesting point, Mike, that he basically took something out of the code of a Sea Org member and just switched out one word, and that was his response in getting this medal.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that was, what do you think, I mean, if you had to speculate on his thought process or why that was done, was it a nod to,
I don't know, like if he knew he was coming in and doing, like, I don't think anything, like, he seems like a smart guy. Like, I'm sure he prepared his remarks before he showed up. Like, we're just here, and every once in a while I'll like, squirrel, brain fart, and I can't remember what to say, and then I stumble around on my words. I don't think that's what Tom Cruise is doing, because he's said previously he struggled with dyslexia. If he's going to go and do something, he's probably going to make sure that he knows exactly what he's going to say. He has it in his mind, even if he's rehearsed it to the point he's able to do it. Me, I do something similar when I have to find myself in similar situations where I over practice exactly what I'm going to say, because I too had dyslexia and had to train myself out of it. So point being is, I think he 100% knew what he was going to say, but his only model for what leadership really looks like is David Miscavige and Scientology. Like, he was brought into Scientology like around the time of like Days of Thunder. Like, the dude was in his 20s. Like, I can tell you when I was in my 20s working for Scientology, but most service members that are in their 20s are still very immature. Like, you're still trying to figure out your life. Like, you haven't got it all figured out. Now that I'm like in my late 40s, I'm like much more of like a focused individual in terms of knowing myself now than I feel like I would have been in my 20s. So this guy got brought into a cult when he had, certain needs that Scientology was appealing to. And then he's been heavily indoctrinated his entire time. So his model is L. Ron Hubbard, David Miscavige, and whatever has been successful for him. He might have other business mentors and stuff, but I think largely this falls into a Scientology model. So of course, when he's going to be responding and receiving a military award, he thinks military leadership service. So he looks to, where do they do that in Scientology, the Sea Organization? And he looks for these all kind of, this code of a Sea Org member, which is their indoctrination process for like how they want their people to kind of operate as a mindset. And that's what he goes with. And he's like, hey, I can use some of this. And I think he literally scripted what he wanted to say. I think it was very deliberate.
I think you're right. And I think contrasting that to him screaming at the crew on site for the movie, who, like you said, are there making his movie and losing it, was very on brand for like David Miscavige or even L. Ron Hubbard from what we've heard. So I thought it was interesting too, that seems to be his default in a moment of stress and being upset, is to be screaming and yelling at people like his, BFF over there, David Miscavige.
Right. So then one would say like, well, of course, David Miscavige isn't going to act like a total like psycho around Tom Cruise. Like, he's going to put on a show just like Tom Cruise would put on a show, right? We'll get to that in a second. Let me just read what Simon Sinek says in terms of what leadership is. He kind of talks about it. The responsibility to help those around you rise, and not only at a position and of authority or rank, leaders should have a clear purpose, inspire others, create a safe and supportive environment, lead by serving and empowering others, and take care of those in their charge. That's a sharp contrast to how it was when I was in the Sea organization. Most of the leadership meant and direction I received felt very much like Tom Cruise talking to the people on his movie set. Like that is like the normal amount of communication you get is it's not always like that, but as soon as something goes a littlest bit wrong, that is 100% the default. And there's even policy in the sea organizations about where ships stay off the rocks as long as somebody yells, and where they're talking about like where the only thing that was keeping them alive was basically the bosun yelling at them during a storm, and they were all just basically mortified. And then it's this whole dissertation that Hubbard gives on why it's good to yell at your people. Like it's a whole thing. It's a whole part of the culture of the Sea organization. 100%. You probably remember that, Natalie.
Yeah, very much so. The yelling, it just, you get so desensitized to it in many ways. And then I became a yeller, which is funny, not so much in the Sea Org, but just as a parent, mainly. And then I became not a yeller because starting to realize that, one, from a parenting perspective, if you just quietly lean in, it's way more effective than actually yelling. But realizing too that that is not how you communicate. That is not how you gain cooperation, how you get people, you inspire them to want to work together and get something done. That is something that's hugely lacking in many ways in the Sea Org. And because of the abusive nature and the attitude that other executives took, in taking a lead, whether it was from David Miscavige or L. Ron Hubbard, whoever it was, but thinking it's okay to do that.
100%. So now today I took my mom Rosemary to a doctor's appointment, and we were kind of mentioning like, hey, I'm going to go on with Natalie and talk about this. And I asked her, I'm like, hey, you were on the international base in Gilman Hot Springs, their secretive international base, when Cruise would be up there, and he kind of just had the run of the place, and she started telling me what it was like. And I want everyone again to think about Tom Cruise, the movie star, in terms of like, oh my God, I'm going to be able to meet Tom Cruise, versus what it was like to work there. And do you want me to give her a call real fast and we can
let's give her a call. Let's hear this story.
Right, let me see if I can get Mom on the phone. She's probably watching, so I told her when we call to turn her iPad down, or her tablet, so it doesn't echo through.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Mom, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Have you been watching Natalie and I?
Oh, this is really good what you guys are doing. I'm enjoying it.
Okay, good. Natalie, can you hear Mom okay?
Yep, I can hear her.
All right, so Mom, you can't hear Natalie reply, but she can definitely hear you. So
okay.
What I'll do is, remember when we were talking today about when you were on the international base, I think you were still working in their upper level management senior executive strata, and you were a secretary for the execant, specifically a marketing execant, and Tom Cruise was on the base. I'm interested in what it was like to have a superstar around at the time, and how exciting that was for you. What are your thoughts?
Oh my gosh, it wasn't exciting at all. It was horrible that he was there because it was so distracting. We were told by the ethics officers, that we had to make sure the place was white gloved and everything. I was in exec strata, and then we would get threatened by David Miscavige. He would come through and say he was going to bring Tom Cruise through here so he could see how sloppy we were. So we would have to make sure everything was, white gloved and everything. And we were scared that he was going to actually bring him in. Anyway.
So he was touring he was touring Tom Cruise around to show Tom Cruise that the international executives were trashy, like that you weren't any good. Like, well, like that almost sounds like it would be counterproductive or self-destructive. Like,
Well, he was saying we better not appear like we, that we weren't the best around. So we better have everything clean and everything. I hope that I made that clear.
No, I get it. Yeah. But But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Dave would try to basically prop himself up as nothing but the only person doing anything good, similar to Tom Cruise yelling at the people on the set. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember a guy named Tony Cifarelli?
Yes, I remember him. He worked in gold, and where was he where the e-meters were getting built?
Yeah, he was basically, I think he was on the e-meter production line, this is their lie detector thing that they make. We made him at Golden Arrow Productions. And he was in him. And then I think that at one point Tom Cruise was coming through with David Miscavige doing a tour, and Tony got in trouble. Do you remember any of because there was some fallout after that?
Yeah, I remember he said, "Hi, Tom," or something to him, and he got in big trouble for calling him Tom and not calling him Mr. Cruise or Sir. And I think he got sent to the RPF.
Wow. And he was married, right?
Yeah, he was married. His wife got really upset about it, and then she got it pulled into ethics because she was upset, because that's how they do. If you get upset about something, then you've got some sins or overts that you have. So she ended up getting pulled in, and I think they threw her in the lake.
So she got thrown overboard for being upset that her husband, because he referred to Tom Cruise as Tom and not Mr. Cruise or Sir when he was a Sea Org member making e-meters. Then she got upset about it, and she got penalized being thrown in a dirty lake. Yes,
that's what I remember.
So it's not a far stretch to see Tom Cruise melting down on his crew on the set and being a complete prick, from the perspective of what you've witnessed with David Miscavige. Now, when you hear Tom Cruise, because you heard that the piece where we were playing Tom Cruise when he was freaking out on the people on the movie set, what did that remind you of when you were listening to that rant?
That just totally reminded me of David Miscavige or any of the execs sometimes when they would go on it, because the execs on the base would mimic David Miscavige. David Miscavige would tear everybody's face off, and whatever, belittle them. Then when he leaves, they act the same way to their crew. So it's sort of like a domino effect. Wow. It's just so pathetic. Yeah. And anyway, Cruise was acting just like David Miscavige. He probably heard him yelling at somebody. I know Miscavige used to take Cruise around to a lot of the different places in gold. So heaven knows what they ran into there. I don't know. Yeah. But it was just something exactly like David Miscavige would do.
Would in your estimation, because we're sitting here talking about leadership and commanding and doing a good job at that, did you enjoy being under the lead of David Miscavige?
Oh my God, it was such a horrible experience.
That's not even a fair question, is it?
When you were showing the clip about Cruise talking to Miscavige when he got that Medal of Valor, that was such a big lie. I can't believe that he was saying that about Miscavige, because Miscavige does nothing but belittle everybody. He's got rid of all of his executives. He's the only one running the show. And if you don't do it like he wants it, you're out. And that's what Tom Cruise was yelling at his crew, just like Miscavige does. Yeah. Anyway.
Good times.
I know, it's horrible. So, I saw Cruise, riding around the base on his motorcycle. He had freedom to do whatever he wanted when he was there. And I would see him outside when I would look out the window, he would just be, just going down the road where I was working. I could see him.
See, most people
never did talk to him in person, but
because most people, if they saw like a superstar, like if any normal person would look out their window and they saw Tom Cruise going by on their motorcycle, they would want to catch up to Tom Cruise and talk to him like, oh my God, it's Tom Cruise. Did you ever feel like you wanted to talk to Tom Cruise while he was there?
No. Oh God, no. I would want to avoid him as much as possible. I didn't want to have anything. I didn't want to have any reaction, two-way communication with him. You never know what would happen. You'd end up somewhere. I would have ended up in the RPF earlier than I did go. You just have to make one little mistake and you're in trouble. Anyway.
Well, thank you, Mom. I think you have put a pin in this pretty effectively. A lot of people in the chat that I'm seeing are saying hi. You want to just say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody. I love you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mom. I'm going to finish up with Natalie and then I'll give you a call when we're done. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tell her
bye.
thanks, Rosemary.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Natalie says thanks. Love you.
Thank you, Natalie. Bye.
Everybody loves your mom so much. There's so many. Hopefully she can go back and see all the comments too.
Oh yeah.
All
I'm
the
sure
love
she's
you,
going to check them out.
Rosemary's. Yeah.
So what'd you think about that, Natalie? Would that be your expectation of what it would be like if you had a superstar up at Scientology International Management?
At the Scientology in base, sure, but only because I'd heard, many stories about this and how even at the Celebrity Center, like they would get rid of anybody that didn't look like they were just winning and, were attractive and looked amazing, were made to go away. No one could go in the elevator with them. It was all about just putting your best foot forward and all of that. So it's just,
Right.
It's interesting too that people were punished. Like, it makes me wonder, like, did he know that a Sea Org member who is doing their job, who's dedicated, gets sent to the Rehabilitation Project Force because he didn't say, sir, to Tom Cruise? That it's just crazy.
What's funny is that Tom would take offense to that. Like if you think about it, these Sea Org members are David Miscavige introduces Tom Cruise as the most dedicated Scientologist ever. Yeah. Meanwhile, these people that are Sea Org members have literally dedicated their entire life and are making next to no money, working all day, every day, 24/7 availability. Most of the day is working, showing up at 8 o'clock in the morning, working until 11 o'clock at night, 7 days a week for nothing. They've dedicated their lives to this. And you're going to say that a guy who lives in luxury is a good film producer and actor and can literally have anything he wants in life and has decided to make Scientology his pet project as the most dedicated Scientologist. Meanwhile, you have an entire labor force of slaves.
Yeah.
So going back to his little award from the Department of the Navy, me as a cult escapee from Scientology's paramilitary organization, I don't like that. And me now as a military officer in the Army, when I see this and I have my background, I think it sucks. But I don't think it's the Navy's bad. I think it's Tom Cruise's bad for being a shit person.
Yeah, I would agree. I can agree with that. That makes a lot of sense. And I feel the way you laid it out too really gave such an interesting perspective. Here's the Tom Cruise that the public sees or what they perceive him to be. And then here's actually how he behaves. And then especially with your mom, Rosemary, sharing her story, it just backs up so much more that that is not the person that he is, that the person that the military and the public in general in those ways thinks that he is not. So very telling.
Yeah.
And I would agree with you. I wouldn't fault the Navy for it. It's you're right. It's
benefited them. And you know what? Good for them. Whatever.
Yeah. No, that's enlightening. That's thanks for laying that out. Can we talk about drones now?
Oh my gosh. So much fun. Yes, let's talk about drones.
Yes. So that concludes the Tom Cruise portion of our program. Okay, so drones. I texted you the other day, or we were texting, and anyways, the whole topic of drones, being a helicopter pilot, knowing everything that's going on with the sightings of these drones in the East Coast and really in different parts of the country. What is your take on this, Mike Brown? What can you tell us? What do you think? Have you had any experience with them? Tell us everything.
So again, all of this is just my opinions and a little bit of my experience over the last couple of days. We were flying out the other night. We were doing night vision goggle training. And as we were coming into one of our bases to land, we got a call from Tower that said, hey, we got a call from state police that there is a swarm of drones close to a truck stop that is close to a base that we were going into. So avoid that area. And it was apparently it was called in like 20 drones in some area. Okay, well so we didn't fly over that. We were busy doing it. And I didn't have a lot of time and we were short on gas. So we just went in and probably finished our stuff. But I was tempted to go like sniff around and see like, ooh, what can I see? But I didn't actually see anything, but it does look like there's at least some sort of public excitement about this whole thing. This is my thought with regard to this. There's a lot of different conspiracy theories, and I'm going to come to my favorite one at the very end, and I'm going to save that one. So let's try to figure out what this is. There could be, let's say that there is, sometimes the military has parts of the military that are confidential. They have different things or different sectors of the government. Let's say that there was some sort of credible threat and they were trying to use UAVs of some sort in order to identify that threat along shipping lines or whatever. UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles or drones, UAVs, not unmanned or unknown air. So we call UAVs drones in the military, unmanned aerial vehicle. So this is basically you're remote controlling it from somewhere, or it is AI driven and it flies and it does some sort of thing. Mm-hmm. If there was some sort of threat to security and they were looking for some sort of threat, if that was a nuclear threat or whatever it was, I'm glad that whoever was out there looking for it and doing their job was doing it. And maybe there was some sort of exercise in place. There's nothing to indicate that that could be the case. There could also be training that goes on. Every so often, the military, even in aviation, we will do urban training where we will use our helicopters and different assets with special forces. And they'll do this sometimes in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in New York City, where they'll literally be flying helicopters and stuff down through the city at low level as though there was a major thing going on. And they'll do sometimes training events. Now, these aren't helicopters that people are seeing, but as we have more drones that are coming into service, let's just say that maybe there was some sort of training event going on too. This is all me coming up with hypothetical possible solutions to what I see this being. If that was the case, and let's say that there was some training that was happening, and let's say that it was in New Jersey and there was legit training that was going on, and a bunch of people saw a bunch of drones and then it went viral, everyone's going to be out there looking for drones. Most of the videos that I've seen of these drones have flashing lights on them and navigational lights that are consistent with what the Federal Aviation Administration requires by regulation in order to have on aerial vehicles when they're flying around. They have the red and green little strobing lights. Those are navigational lights. You can tell which direction it's going based off of which side the colors are on. Also the white light for anti-collision lights, so you can identify them. If I was trying to do something nefarious as a bad guy, I wouldn't have fucking lights on my drone. Let me just put it that way. Yeah. So I think that there's a bunch of fun conspiracy with regard to that, but I don't necessarily think that we're being invaded by like Iran or some bad actor, because if you wanted to conduct surveillance on us, I already think they are. And there's a much better way to do it that are not drones. And it would be satellites. You don't even see them. They're taking pictures of your license plate from orbit. Like, wow. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't sweat that too much in terms of the drones. So I think that there was a bit of a hysteria that happened, and then it went viral, and then people were starting to identify a lot of what was probably normal air travel. Do you have that video that I sent you that shows the United States air traffic? It's the United States air traffic, basically in a 24-hour period within the United States. These are just the takeoffs and landings that occur by like fixed wing or rotary wing aircraft, being like helicopters or airplanes within the continental United States within a 24-hour period. And you're going to see, once we get this thing pulled up, there are literally thousands of takeoffs and landings that are going on. And this doesn't account for like just people with drones out there doing stuff. So basically this is a day and a minute, 24 hours in the United States. Every one of these little dots on here represents an airplane that is taking off and either going basically on an international flight or arriving internationally or domestic flights, Canada, United States. And you see there's major hubs that this stuff is going to. And on the East Coast over there around New York, Philadelphia, Jersey, there's a tremendous amount of stuff. So this is basically during the day, it just gets more and more and more as you have most of the flight stuff that's going on. So I think there was something that was probably happening. It was probably some sort of training event, my speculation again. And then I think that it went viral and everyone's now looking for anything they see. They're like drones. Like my daughter will go outside sometime. I think I saw a UFO, and we're on the approach path for an airport. I'm like, well, that UFO has nav lights, sweetie, and it's going towards the airport that's just over there. So she's like, okay, fine. Well, I guess we'll look for another one. So I think there's a little bit of public hysteria on that. So that's the rational part of my mind on how it's processing the drones. Do you want to hear the conspiracy theory?
Oh, that's what I'm here for.
I think this is the fifth invader force coming to bust Lord Xenu out of his prison. I really think so.
Out of his electronic cage.
All hail Lord Xenu.
Well, Feral Cheryl says that Xenu won't be showing up in Florida because he owes her child support.
I saw part of that. That was both hilarious and kind of creepy at the same time. It was pretty great. I liked, what was it? The Supreme Ruler? Or she had a ruler?
Supreme Ruler. And it had Supreme on the ruler. Or Ruler,
awesome.
as she says.
Great. Did Marilyn knit that thing?
Yeah, the Xenu hat. She did.
That's
Marilyn over at Coffee Cult and Crafts. She did an amazing job. Let's see. Oh, you know, Dee Marie says, I'm going to pull up a couple things here. Wouldn't you comply with regulations if you were trying to get away with something?
That's an argument. But let's say there are like development of drones that they're building into something that looks like a bird, like a large bird, like an eagle or a buzzard or something like that. So if you were trying to look for something and be like not seen, and you had the technology to literally hide your UAV inside of a bird carcass, you might do that too. So yeah, that is, you know, like, hey, if you were doing something, you know, try to make it look like legitimate, like that would be an argument for that as well. You could go either way on that argument. You could say, well, I want to hide completely. Now, I also know at night, it's harder to see things, and it's also, you have less light. So the imaging technology that would have to be on the drones in order to see what they want to see has to be that much better, because you don't have sunlight, you just have night vision. And we've had a lot of increases in, you know, the technology of night vision, and there's probably stuff that I don't even know about and technology wise, and that could be the case, or this is all AI driven or whatever it is. So the world is your oyster when you start getting into, like, this is almost reaching moon landing conspiracy level with the drone stuff. It's amazing. It's cool. We'll probably forget about it next week, but this week it's fun.
Probably. John Shamwowski, thank you for the super sticker. Can body thetans hold on at 9 Gs?
I don't know. You've done OT3, Natalie. I haven't. So you tell me.
I don't think I was in 9G though. Isn't that when you're like way
4G negative dive? I was inverted.
I would think so. Nurse Lori says, Mike, I admire your ability to separate. I can't. I think he's just a big turd. That's in regard, of course, to Tom Cruise.
There you go. I've never seen a Tom Cruise movie where he doesn't emotionally or physically suffer that I didn't enjoy.
Chuck Ross says, my FB military avatar friends, Facebook,
maybe.
My Facebook military avatar friends have been silent on this so far. I feel the award cheapens the U.S. Navy. Lori in Georgia says, I was just thinking Mike has the life Tom Cruise wants. Pilot, married, with wonderful kids, and a great mom. Isn't that true?
I am pretty fortunate. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Let's see. Does it matter to you? Not to me. Says, I'm sorry, all the other X ends, but Mike Brown is my hero. He makes me want to do better. I hope you understand.
Well, that's too nice. Thank you so much.
I love that. Tony Hoban, Mike is an amazing human being. Debbie with an eye says, Mike is very honorable. And I know Mike is hating this right now.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of accolades, but thank you.
Take it, Mike. Take it. David Bruce is saying, wasn't there recently a lot of deregulation regarding drones?
Because I don't fly them much, I'm way too busy trying to figure out how to fly helicopters still. There probably has been, but I know there are certain regulations in terms of like who can fly them, how big they can be, the altitudes you can fly at. So, I have a feeling, and there could be copycat people like, oh, there's people out there freaking out about drones. I'm going to go out and do stuff to like, see if I can make the news too. I mean, we live in a crazy time, so anything's possible. I'm still going with the Fifth Invader Force. That's where I'm putting my money.
We cannot rule it out that it's not the Fifth Invader Force
cannot.
that L. Ron Hubbard spent so much time talking about. I
That is
forget the whole
actually
lore.
Yeah, I do too. But I would say with the Fifth Invader Force, that is actually the theory that we can rule out the least, which makes it the most probable.
Is that kind of like how I mean, when you say you can rule it out, you think that, I mean, just do you really think that could be the case, or is that just kind of like a different way of thinking?
What, the Fifth Invader Force thing?
Well, to think that like, what if it is the least?
But if you can't prove it, then it's the least. Yeah, honestly, if you look at take all the stupid Scientology, thoughts in terms of where we came from in the universe and all that sort of stuff, I don't think they're even close to right on what is the where we came from and what we're coming from. Like in terms of religions, do I think Scientology is right? I think they're full of shit. But I can't help but enjoy it, especially when we're talking about drones. So
yeah. Do you, and if you can answer this, as a helicopter pilot and doing training with helicopters, have there been any instructions in regard to the drones on what to do in case you encounter one? Or maybe the better question is too, what to do in case you encounter something and you don't know what it is?
Oh, so there are procedures. So if you do, like you're asking if there's like if you see something and you don't know what it is, like a UFO sighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a procedure for exactly how to report that up, and I haven't had that happen to me. Again, with helicopters, we're relatively low to the ground. We're relatively slow. I like to refer to us as kind of the fat kid on the playground. We're not a jet like that's flying at 60,000 feet, at thousands of miles per hour. We're not that, so is there a chance that there are like absolutely UFO sightings that occur? And when that happens, there's a procedure for reporting them. And a lot of times the Air Force and the Navy finds themselves having to do that. Less so probably the Army, because we're mainly helicopters. But with respect to drones, my main concern flying a helicopter is that I don't hit the little shit. Like one of a major thing at low level is if you hit birds, like if I'm flying along and I'm at, 500 feet above the ground or at treetop level and I hit a buzzard, like that thing's going to tear up the cockpit. It might come through the glass. It might, destroy stuff. If it hits an engine, it could damage an engine. You could have structural damage. You could have mechanical failure. So our main thing is we don't want to hit them because they would cause damage to the aircraft and put the crew at risk. So when the tower tells us to avoid it, it's because it poses an aerial risk to us, similar to if there was rocks. The biggest risk I've ever, had stateside is people shining laser pointers at helicopters. That is the fastest way. If you want to go to jail, shine laser pointers at aircraft. The police, when they find you, will 100% arrest you and you'll go to jail. So that is federally very, very illegal. I've been lased multiple times. And when that happens, we then call it in and then they send state police out to see if they can investigate and find out who did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Aaron says hi, says he's with George, who says hi as well. Hello.
Hey, George. Hey, Aaron.
Debbie with an eye says, fat kid on the playground, just call me helicopter. Oh, that's so funny. Mike, I'm so glad that you agreed to do this. I always love sitting and chatting, and I think it's a conversation we'll probably keep having on both fronts. And I'm going to bug you relentlessly to do your one video a week because I want to see it.
I want to do it too.
Yeah, and then hold on. We've got so many things open here. I'm just going to pull up your channel.
One thing that's really interesting, and Mom and I are going to get to it hopefully soon. When she left, as we were trying to figure out what to do to get her clear of Scientology so they wouldn't harass her, she actually wrote a letter to David Miscavige and Tom Cruise directly. And she sent this letter to Tom Cruise. Like, we didn't have his address, so we sent it to his agent. and she sent it to David Miscavige, and it was a plea for them to reform the fucked up stuff about Scientology. And that was 100% what her letter was about. And she addressed directly Tom Cruise and David Miscavige and all of the stuff. And it was all about things she wanted to improve for other people, not about for herself. And her major ask was, please, please, please leave me the hell alone.
Wow.
So I want to share a little bit more of that because I think it's worth. Of course, we never heard back from Mr. Tom Cruise, but more to come there.
Well, that's good. So if you guys don't want to miss it, make sure you go over to Mike Brown at Mike Brown 101, subscribe to his channel, and look for that. That's going to be really exciting. I'm excited about that. Well, thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, everybody who's been here in the chat, your fabulous questions and your very kind words, not just for Mike, but for Rosemary as well. I will see all of you tomorrow to do a recap, a culty recap. Yeah, Mike, thank you. I appreciate it so much. Sit tight, everybody. Get out there and have a cult-free evening.